this week it is fantasy football playoffs. So regular season is done. In
Mhm.
your leagues, you are going to be either advancing or your season is officially done after this week. Little Jacob just touched on COVID protocols. I myself, on Monday night, I had Tyler Higbee playing. He, all of a sudden, I guess like an hour before the game, was thrown into the COVID protocols. I didn't know because there had been nothing said on him all week.
Yep.
And like lesson learned, check your stuff continuously. Um,
Yes.
but I didn't know, and I ended up losing by I think like 8 points, which I could have had a chance of winning with the way Matthew Stafford played. But that really irritated me because the next day, excuse me, basically Tuesday, he was already taken off COVID protocol. So it almost makes me think like his test was a false positive. But
Mm,
it was very annoying because that was the last guy I had. And I
yeah.
already had other players out this week due to COVID. So very like tough time to manage things, especially when they happen like that, short notice.
Yeah.
But go through the recap of your team and how you think they'll do this week again.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah. So thankfully, we're able to finish at 10-4, which is really good. It's pretty close to my expectations for the roster that I built. We're gonna be playing the same guy in the first round that I just recently beat. So I feel really confident. I'm about 59% favorite to win the matchup here this weekend. I feel really good about going back to the championship game. And also winning it again because the other best team or the best team as ranked number one, I'm ranked number three in this league. I faced him last year, and this year he's had some pretty big injuries hit his roster, including Derrick Henry and recently Lamar Jackson. So I feel like if I can make it through these next two rounds and get to this championship game in the third week or 3 weeks from now, and I face him, I think I have a really good shot at going back. And guys, for those of you that play fantasy and your team fell short or seems to fall short, trust me, this is like the best two lucky seasons I've had been playing fantasy football for a while, and it seems like every year I was finishing last in the middle. You just got to keep playing, and eventually, if you do a little bit of homework, you get the right players, and sometimes a little luck, and you might just win it all. So just keep playing. If you didn't make it to the playoffs, or if you lose in the playoffs, fantasy football can pop off really for anybody any year when you get a good team together.
Well, and I think with what you just brought up too, like fantasy football can take such a turn so quick. My team,
Oh
as
yeah,
we've talked throughout this season, started off like really hot first 2 weeks, and then all of a
yeah,
sudden they went on like a 4 week stretch of just sucking. And now
yeah,
I've somehow found my way into the playoffs, and our matchup is actually very close with the guy I'm playing. But with Keenan Allen coming back off of COVID protocols, if Melvin Gordon can actually go, I actually feel pretty confident I might be able to sneak through this first round of the playoffs. Um, but yeah, man, like you got definitely got to do your homework. Definitely got to kind of see like where the trends are going. And also be very much aware of what is going on with players. Okay. So
yeah,
we talked briefly about Tony Pollard, and we updated you guys that he has apparently torn his plantar fasciitis in his foot, which is a tendon that basically runs down like where the arch of your foot is. It's basically a tendon that runs down through there. So basically, when your foot is like this and it's flat, it's fine. But as soon as you go to like plant your foot up and go up on your toes, basically that tendon like stretches all the way down through there. So the fact that he has that like torn, if it actually is torn, he's not really going to be able to plant and put any force off of his foot. It's going to be very painful.
yeah.
Um, the reason I bring that up is because try to look at what is going on with teams. Last week, Mike Williams was out for the Chargers, and then Keenan Allen would have been their like number one target. Okay, with Mike Williams being out. Well, when he went into the COVID protocols, I was like, dude, I have to have somebody else. And I actually went on the waiver wire because nobody was paying attention. And I picked up Jalen Guyton for the Chargers. Last week, he got he got me 16.12 or 16.2 fantasy points. He had 87 yards receiving. He caught one touchdown, and that was on three receptions. The reason I picked him up is because the week before Mike Williams was out as well. So then, therefore, Keenan Allen was going to draw a double coverage. And I saw he had 90 yards receiving. He had 1 touchdown on 4 receptions. So I snagged him, and he actually helped me keep my score really close in this last game. And based off of points for and then points scored against, like depending on how your leagues are set up, that's
Yeah.
how I was able to actually stay in the playoffs because I picked up him and another guy that actually got me quite a few points. So, be aware of all the movement on your teams, and not just for your players, but like on the actual team themselves. The Rams right now have 9 players that have recently been put into the COVID protocol. So
Yeah.
definitely stay up to date on that stuff. All right. So moving forward, okay, kind of talking about fantasy football here. Let's quickly talk about setting up your like DraftKings roster or your FanDuel roster. What players do you like this week as far as like adding them to your roster, and what players would you avoid this week? Like, what can you do to make the most money, essentially?
Yeah, definitely. And when you talk about these kind of fan duels and things like that, you want to try to get the best of the best available, you know, at all times, because that it's more of like over that one, that stretch of games kind of thing.
Yeah,
So it's helpful to know not just who the premier players are that everyone knows, but it's also helpful to know who are some of the other players that are very extremely productive fantasy wise. Okay. So I think if you're gonna get a receiver, a real go-to receiver, one of those receivers for me would probably be Ray McLeod against the Tennessee Titans. The Titans have allowed most target receptions and receiving yards to the position this year. Um, and Ray McLeod's actually been playing really well. I've seen some of the work that he's done. I know the Tennessee Titans or the Pittsburgh Steelers haven't been playing all that great, but if there's one receiver that's not Chase Claypool or Juju Smooster is actually out there doing their job and making the best out of the chances they get, that's one guy that can probably get you a lot of points. He did have a breakout game against Minnesota last week, and I think he's going to continue to have Ben go to him throwing the football. Another player I would probably recommend is Michael Gallup against the New York Giants, struggling defense
I
still.
like that.
Of course, with Dallas, when you got CeeDee Lamb out there and Amari Cooper, we've talked about it all year. When you got those two guys out there, Michael Gallup, it just comes out as a different guy from the slot. Very productive. You can look at him to make a lot of catches and get you some well-generated fantasy points, and hopefully a touchdown or two. So definitely take a look at picking up Michael Gallup if you can. So those are two pretty good receivers I was thinking about there. Also, Brandon, I think Ayuk, is it? Ayuk from the
Yeah,
49ers?
yeah,
Yeah, he's had at least 50 yards in his last 5 games. He's been pretty consistent recently. I think he's going to continue to blossom in there with that offense. And against the Falcons, that's another opportunity for that 49ers offense to get them to the football to him. I think that'd be a good choice as well. You couldn't go wrong with that. See, for running backs, got a couple of good names here looking at. Um, I think Antonio Gibson did a really well game. Had a really good game against the Cowboys this past weekend. As bad as they may have done, like turning over the ball, Gibson himself, I think, had a pretty decent game. I'm pretty sure he's going to get some high volume against that Eagles defense and have success. Unless you have some better options, significantly better options at running back, Antonio Gibson wouldn't be a bad pickup to generate you points at the least, right? So that's a good idea. I also like James Robinson starting against the Texans. The
yeah,
Texans haven't stopped anybody all season,
yeah.
and I doubt that it's gonna change with James Robinson. He got the ball, I think. Let's see, yeah, like 30 times recently, and especially for the Jaguars. They're the Jaguars, and the way the passing game is gone for them. Running is something they're relying more heavy on. So James Robinson, in my mind, would be a solid selection for you if you're going to need a good fantasy running back in there. I think Devontae Freeman also has not been playing too bad. He's going to be there with the Ravens. I don't think that they're going to have. They're probably. I don't know. I haven't seen the official stats for Lamar Jackson, but they're definitely going to need help in that run game. And Lamar's still dealing with an ankle injury. I see Devontae Freeman getting that football a lot. So yeah, I mean, he might still get some carries taken away from Latavius Murray, but I see Devontae Freeman getting most of the carry load at running back at that position there. Trying to take a look at the quarterbacks. I mean, there's a couple of good quarterbacks that are playing pretty consistently. One of the guys that probably goes underlooked because of how the team has played as a whole in their record, that's Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
He's played pretty consistent all year considering things. He's probably one of the few quarterbacks that has thrown as many touchdowns as he has, and a few interceptions. Like, it's not bad at all. I think it's a good matchup against that Bears
Let me ask you this
defense.
question. If you got Patrick Mahomes and Kirk Cousins, you're in the playoffs, who are you playing?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because I dropped a player because I had Patrick Mahomes and I was like, I don't need another quarterback until his bye week. But we've talked about how inconsistent Mahomes has been all year. I actually picked up Kirk Cousins and I've had him playing the last like 3 weeks. And he's been very consistent, and that is what has helped me like win these games.
Yeah, that's definitely a good question. I think the reason that I would go with Kirk Cousins is not only because of his consistency, but because they are playing a less superior Bears defense. Patrick Mahomes, even though the Chiefs have been playing great, they're going to face a team that's pretty good right now and that is rolling again, which is the Chargers, and their defense is pretty solid. And if they're not too banged up or in the COVID protocols, especially on the defensive side, that might be a game that's more of I don't want to say maybe a lockdown for Mahomes, but just not allowing him to be as productive at the from the quarterback standpoint as you would like for fantasy. Kirk Cousins is more of a sure thing, especially if you're doing like a FanDuel or a game that's going to count for something you're doing this weekend. You know what I mean?
I got you. I just wanted to get your intake on that and stuff because no, it's definitely like this is those weeks, man, where you got to have your best lineup, your best guys going because it's win or you're done. So, so one thing I'll touch on with FanDuel DraftKings, okay, for those of you that don't know, like one that you don't know what it is, it's basically a betting website, all right, that you can legally sign up for and play in. But it is essentially like week to week fantasy football. Okay. So what me and little Jacob have talked about through these like 13, 14 episodes is we drafted our teams prior to the NFL season. And now we've had these guys the whole entire time, or we may have like dropped a guy, traded some people, but we've basically had our team for the past 14 weeks. Okay. With DraftKings and FanDuel, you can go in and sign into a $5 lobby, put $5 down, and then you pick the players that you want for that week that you think are going to give you the most points. The trick to this is, though, too, and I've done this from time to time, is say you're in a lobby with 1 million people that are in this $5 lobby to try to win this $3 million, okay? Everybody that you pick, if you have 80% of the lobby pick that same person, then 80% of the lobby, you all are sharing the same points. Okay. Yeah. So sometimes you want to go and change what you're doing with a couple of players and kind of take a risk of, hey, nobody really has this guy. I'm going to pick him up. That Jalen Guyton, I actually did not a FanDuel, but a DraftKings last week. I did a $5 lobby. I won $175 because he popped off and less than 1% of the lobby had him on their rosters, which meant pretty much all the points he got me, I was the only one getting those points. No one else was.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a trick to it. You can definitely pick up some big name stars that you know are going to do really well, but you want to try to snag some guys that a lot of people are not going to acquire for their list that week. I can't remember who it was many years ago, but it was like just when DraftKings started. There was like 2 running backs for the Patriots that were out. Like James White was out. I think Corey Dillon was out. They had this third string guy in there, and some dude picked him up threw him on there, and the guy ended up rushing for like 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he won $1 million because no one else in this whole entire lobby like picked this guy up, and the guy just had a crazy game. So there's definitely money to be won. My team and roster that I would go and put together for this week,
Mhm.
I actually like I like James, is it James Robinson, I think, for the
Mhm.
Jaguars. I like him a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
I also like Adam Jones. Those are two that I would definitely put on there. One person that I would definitely try to snag as a tight end would be either Rob Gronkowski or George Kittle. So those are kind of some like bigger name guys. I also really like this week with the Giants. I like Daniel Jones at quarterback on my fantasy, like DraftKings or FanDuel. And the reason is because Daniel Jones is going to get a lot of yards like from running. And there's not going to be a lot of people that will pick him up because of Dallas's defense.
Actually,
Okay.
I think. Wait. I
Daniel
wanted to
Jones
check.
in.
I heard that he was not gonna play, but maybe that's incorrect. Let
I'm
me
not
see here.
100% on that. So if he is playing, I would pick him up. Another person, though, at quarterback that I think you should definitely snag because he is really starting to come along
Mhm.
um, is Justin Fields. And the reason I bring up Justin Fields is because the past few games that he's played in, he's really starting to utilize his legs more. So last week against Green Bay, final score was 45-30 for Green Bay, but he went 18 for 33, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But the guy also had 9 carries for 80 yards, which is huge as a quarterback in fantasy. Like that's
Yeah.
8 points alone right there.
Yeah.
A lot of people are not going to pick him up because of the lack of offense that the Bears have. But over the past few games for the Bears, they've put up, let's see here, they put up 30 points, they put up 22, they put up 16, that was Thanksgiving, 13, 27, 22. Like that, I think the 49ers game is when Justin Fields kind of officially took over. And the Lions game that they won, that was with Andy Dalton on Thanksgiving Day, which was just horrendous to watch. But their offense is starting to produce a lot more. And he's starting to like actually do what he did in college a little bit. So wide receivers, I would look at and definitely try to acquire is oh no page. I would look at Michael Pittman for the Colts. He's going to be going against the Patriots. There might not be a lot of people that pick him up due to the fact they're going against the Patriots. I would also look at Jalen Waddle as well for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And then as a defense that I would take, um, I would actually probably pick up either the 49ers defense this
Yeah.
week,
That's what I was thinking.
or if you really kind of want to try to go like high risk, high reward, because defense starts at 10 points and it's going to gradually go down, or you're going to have a situation like myself last week where Lamar Jackson went out and the Browns defense popped off for like 18 points. Okay. You may look at the Jaguars defense because the Texans are awful. But that's if you really want to go like high risk, high reward and trying to snag them because nobody's going to take the Jaguars defense. Or
I
you could even
know.
try to take the Texans defense because Jaguars are pretty bad themselves. So just one of those things. But that's kind of my input on one to give you the chance to like make the money at least or like get yourself some money. But I also
And
think that's going to be like the best setup to possibly get you, um, into that higher tier money, actually. So
Yeah, and definitely another team. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a fan, but I mean, if someone in your league or someone's not considering taking the Dallas defense, considering how well they played this last game and that the weapons that they have back on the roster, playing the Giants and potentially also playing against a few backups on offense, it might just pay off big time to start Dallas defense this weekend, as well, because the turnout they had against Washington was crazy. I mean, they essentially won and kept them in the game. So it's also another opportunity if someone's not jumping on it, in your league or in like a FanDuel or something. Definitely consider that option as well.
Um, since you brought up the Dallas game, and we're kind of talking about games now,
Hmm.
did you watch any of the Bucks Bills game?
Yes, I did.
How about the turnaround of that game? Like the Bucks
Yeah, dude.
completely had that game out of reach, just
Crazy.
doing whatever they wanted to do to the Bills. And the next thing I know, I turn around and it's like 27-24 or something. It was like a 3-point game. And I was like, what
Yep.
in the hell is happening right now?
Yeah. I
Um,
think.
I just, and that's the thing with the Bills, man. Like, I don't understand them. They can come out and they can either destroy teams and put them away,
Yeah.
or they get behind and then all of a sudden they want to play catch up, and it's like halfway through the game, they're like, all right, we'll start playing now. And they can just get right back in it like it's nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's why the what I was talking about, the stream title part of it being Tom Brady does it again. And it's just crazy, man. I mean, the guy's 44 years old. He's thrown 36 touchdowns, over 4,000 yards.
Yeah.
A man his age, you're not going to see a quarterback his age play like this ever, probably ever
Nope.
again. And it's just insane that, like you said, the Bills have it in the bag. Come halftime, they're coming back. And then to cap it all off, right, to just add to Tom Brady's already legendary resume of Super Bowl MVP, all that stuff, he goes and he just throws an easy walk-off game winner in overtime. He
Yeah.
does it again, and it's insane. But it's definitely awesome to get to watch a player of his caliber do what he's doing, and that was a great game to watch, especially the way it ended.
Do you still think the Cardinals are like kind of a heavy contender, or heavy like favorite to make it towards, like, let's say that, I don't want to say Super Bowl, but like NFC Championship at least?
I still think they are. I still think they are. That was a bit of an off game. They got roughed up by the Rams. Kyler Murray missed a couple of deep throws and made some critical mistakes with the two interceptions. But at the end of the day, they're still a really good team. I think that if they can get things on track these next few weeks, which they have 3 more, it's kind of like a similar situation with Dallas. I mean, they didn't look really good offensively. The only difference is we won because of the defense. But um, yeah, I mean, the Cardinals will be back to, I think, will be back and ready for the playoffs by the time these next few weeks pass by. They get some time to figure it out. I think that was just maybe one of the few games that Kyler Murray just wasn't going to play well in, similar to that, I think that Green Bay game where he just didn't have a great game that day.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I still feel like they're a threat for sure to get
Well,
to get to the at least the NFC Championship.
the reason I bring that up is because I think we talked about this like maybe 1 or 2 episodes ago,
Mhm.
but those like mobile quarterbacks, man, in the beginning of the year, from like a fantasy perspective and just like a fan perspective, they are
Yeah,
like such a big spectacle of like, holy crap, man, look at the plays they make, and they're so hard to stop and you can't contain them. And then it's like as the year goes on, more and more of those plays start to slowly fade away, and then when you come playoff time, it's just like, bam, what happened to this guy? Like Lamar, the past few seasons, everybody's like, oh man, he's tearing it up like during the regular season. Then playoffs come, it's like, wow, this is the worst game of the year for him. And I just
yeah.
don't know what it is. Like it's either teams figure it out and they know how
I
to
think
like manage it, or I don't know. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Like that was like his worst games at the time. So
yeah. And sometimes I kind of ask myself, does Lamar Jackson actually hold back the Ravens? And the reason that I ask that question is because if I look at the quarterbacks listed here, that are performing, right? I mean, he's on the first page alone, like he's kind of dead middle in the pack. Um, he's thrown for 2,882 yards, 16 touchdowns, but with 13 interceptions. Um, he doesn't have the best overall rating of a quarterback. It's only an 87. And sometimes it seems like it's really hit or miss with him, and he's not consistent. And
What's
it's like
his
you said, it
rushing?
seems like
What's his
his
rushing?
rushing.
Yeah,
That's a good question. Let's see here.
I bet he's got a lot of yards rushing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he's on
By the way,
maybe the
bro,
front page here.
is that a python on the screen?
uh,
He's over
yes,
here got a
sir.
python on the screen.
Lamar Jackson is actually he has 767 rushing yards, so he is running the ball a lot. But I feel like a lot of the time, man, sometimes his play at quarterback really holds the team back in. That's probably why the Ravens are 8-5. Because like you said, at first, it seems like the first few weeks, guys like Lamar Jackson being a mobile quarterback, they're really popping off. They're
Oh
doing
yeah,
great
they were
things for
tearing it up.
fantasy. And then it gets near the end of the season, and it seems like teams figure them out. They get them on film. They get a couple of sessions. They see what other teams did right to stop them or halt them or disrupt them. And it starts to become a trend for them to not perform well. I don't know if that'll happen with Kyler Murray because he did have a pretty bad game. It's going to depend on how he plays the next 2 or 3 weeks. But yeah, it's interesting to see how that develops. I honestly think it's because teams just do what professional teams are paid to do, and that's make adjustments and figure out how to start stopping people. I mean, they figured it out with Patrick Mahomes eventually, right? I mean, to a degree,
Yeah.
they did. So yeah, it's definitely interesting to watch to see who can get past the hump as far as like just the having those highs and lows, being a mobile quarterback. And it's tough. It's tough throwing the ball on the run. It's tough if you don't have proper blocking. You're not getting enough time in the pocket. Receivers aren't doing what they're supposed to. Or just there's a whole bunch of things that come with being a mobile quarterback. It's great and it's flashy and it can be fun to watch, but sometimes it can throw off a lot of things and be disrupting.
I don't know, man. It's just it seems to be a continuous trend. And
Yeah.
I'll say this about mobile quarterbacks, okay? When I was in college, I played tight end. Okay, my last year, I started off as tight end. Like first 3 games of the season, our left tackle broke his leg. I had to switch because our backup was very talented. He did not know the pass protections. He did not know play calls. As soon as we put him in for a game, we had to throw. It was second down, and we got behind the chains. Our second string quarterback was in. We had to throw to kind of like get some ground, caught back up. The guy went the wrong way. That quarterback literally got knocked out because he got just absolutely obliterated from behind because the guy went the wrong way.
Damn.
So we went from first string quarterback, second string quarterback down to third string. And our third string quarterback could not play. Like he just was not ready, was kind of thrown into the fire. We ended up running the ball the rest of the time. And I knew during that game, like at halftime, I was like, I'm switching positions. Like I just knew it was coming. Our third string quarterback was extremely mobile though. And I'll say this, when we got our first string quarterback back, he was very much a pocket passer. I knew where he was going to be. Like whenever I was pass setting and I had to drop back and block my guy, I knew how far I could go and I knew how much like distance I had to give up before it put pressure on him. And then I had to like start fighting back or like redirect the guy I'm blocking. But when our third string was in there with him being mobile, there would be tons of times, man, where I would be like setting back thinking like, okay, I got this guy locked up. And the next thing I know, he goes a completely different direction because our quarterback's running around. And I never knew where our quarterback was. Like I never knew if he was going to be back behind me, if he was going to be inside me, because he was just always running around. And that was a confidence thing with him being so young. It was like, bro, trust us. Like we had to instill in him, like, trust us. We are your front line. We got you. Nobody's going to get to you. And it took him like 3 games for him to like kind of click, like, okay, I'm not going to get like hammered back here. These guys will protect me. And that helped us. So a lot of times I feel like with these guys that are mobile in the NFL and everything, it's like, man, this is great. But you look at the linemen and like you actually watch the linemen with like Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson, dude, they're running around with their heads cut off because they don't know who the hell to block, because they don't know where their quarterback's at. Tatsuya, thank you for those 200 biddies. I see that in there. We turned the alerts off for this segment of the podcast. That way it didn't like interrupt the audio. But we already screwed up the podcast today. So it's all right. It was all messed
But
up from the beginning.
But no, sometimes too. I mean, it also can cause injuries because linemen don't know who's
Yeah.
where. People trip over each other. They fall on each other. Ankles get twisted. Knees get. It can be a really rough transaction.
Yep.
When, like I said, it's flashy. It's great for fans, and when you're winning, it's amazing. But at the same time, it can also disrupt things and have a negative impact on the game and the whole team in general.
Yeah, I agree. So that's gonna kind of wrap it up for football this week. For all of you that are in your fantasy football leagues, it is currently 12/15, 2021, 5:22 p.m. Your game tomorrow, Thursday night. If you guys have questions, reach out to Little Jacob on Twitter. Reach out to myself, Selfless Gaming, on Twitter. Find us on TikTok. Find us on our Twitch. Jump in our Twitch chats. You guys got questions about your lineups, because these are the weeks that you have to make these games count. You need the most points possible. We cannot guarantee you a win, but we've been doing this for many years. We kind of know what to expect. We can do a lot of research for you, help you out, try to get you to that next round. If you do win your championship and you use our advice, we get a minimum of 85% of your winnings. That is the deal. Okay. Let's talk about the NBA, bro. NBA's been popping off for a while now. We've kind of been neglecting the round ball game, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, how about Stefan Curry, bro?
That man is a human cheat code. He's doing some kind of weird basketball magic where he makes it fall into the hoop because it's crazy. That record he broke is crazy.
So then let's talk about that real quick for people that don't know. All right, Ray Allen played in the league for a very long time.
Yes.
All right. Can you look up for me how many like seasons Ray Allen was in the league, or like his career length? Then look up Steph Curry's. But Ray Allen is going to be a Hall of Famer. Ray Allen held the 3-point record, which I'm pretty sure he broke Reggie Miller's 3-point record. But it was like most career 3-pointers made. And a lot of people talked about the fact that, like, man, this record may not be touched for a long time. And then this young guy out of Davidson College, Stefan Curry, comes into the league kind of quiet first few years, and all of a sudden the dude just starts erupting, and the guy starts like the thing with Stefan Curry that's crazy is, one, he's a point guard, so he's always got the ball in his hand. Two, he can handle the basketball probably the best out of anybody in the league as far as handling it and like contributing to his team. But the guy has literally no range. When I say no range, he can literally walk across half court and just let it rip and sink it. And he's probably one of the most difficult people to defend in the league for at least the past 5 years, because you have to be on him. Like, you give him any space and he's feeling it, he's going to drain a 50-foot shot like it's nothing. Stuff. So he actually broke Ray Allen's 3-point record last night, which, congratulations to you, Steph Curry. That's a huge accomplishment, man. But how long was Ray Allen in the league for?
Ray Allen was playing for 18 seasons. It's a total of a ridiculous amount of games. Like, so basically, seasons. 18 seasons. Curry's been in the league now, I think about 15, 14 years. 15 counting this one. Ray Allen, in that 18-year span, made 2,973 3-pointers. Steph Curry has made that number, or broke that record. It's 2,974th the other day. So it's just ridiculous that making that point, making that shot from where he pulls up and makes those shots from. It's amazing. I mean, it's crazy. It's hard to explain because there's never been a shooter that not only shoots this well from the 3-point line, but it has made this many threes in their whole freaking career. And his career's not over. He's still gonna at this rate and his health, he can easily play till he's hit year 20. I mean, I believe that because he's just take care of himself really well. He's not super injury prone. And I honestly think that the record that he leaves behind, I don't know if anyone's ever going to break that, at least not in our lifetime.
So I just did some quick math here. Okay. For Ray Allen, like to kind of put things in perspective, I took 18 seasons and there's roughly 82 games in a season. All right. Because I'm pretty sure his whole career he's played 82.
Yeah, the long ones. Yeah.
So that's 1,476. I believe there is 4 rounds. So it's like quarterfinals, semifinals, championship, and then NBA finals. So there's 4 rounds of playoffs. Okay. So let's say he does that and goes game 7 every single round. All right. That's 28 games that you'd have to win the NBA title. Times that by 18. So you're looking at roughly like 2,000 games almost that Ray Allen played. And he held that record for a couple years. And Steph Curry's already like broke that record. How old is Steph Curry? Do you have his age?
Steph Curry, can look it up.
He's got to be in his 30s. Yeah. I want to say he's like 32. I'm not 100%. I want to say he's like
30. Yeah, which is still crazy to think about. He's 33.
33. Okay, I was close. So the fact that he's 33 years old, he's already like shattered this record. Like you guys, if you are like a basketball fanatic or you're not a basketball fanatic and you want to watch like basketball catch a game, go watch this guy play. He's really good. Especially for his size. He's like incredibly undersized compared to other players. But the fact that he's doing what he's doing is just absolutely insane. And you guys honestly this might be one of those things where he sets this record so high, you'll never see it broken.
Like, yeah, I don't think so.
Because he's 33. LeBron is what, 35, 36 now? I just saw like Lakers thing here.
I mean, Curry could play till he was 40 if he really wanted to. Like, if he really wanted to play another 7 years in the NBA, he would not. He might slow down a bit and not play as many minutes each game, but he would still be out there chunking up those threes and sinking them, no doubt. So like you said, that's probably never going to be a record that we'll ever see broken.
So LeBron James is 36 years old, okay?
Yeah.
He's got 3 years on Curry. The reason I think Steph Curry could play for a long time, or like you may not ever see this record broken, is because Ray Allen was a shooting guard. There's not really much required by those type of players. Like he could easily give up his point guard like handling responsibilities and duties, and they could move him to like a 2 or 3 guard. And the way the NBA is now, the game is so spread out and there's so much like scoring involved with the game. He could easily just be one of those guys that is constantly floating around the 3-point line and you just pitch it to him, just let him shoot it. That's what Ray Allen did for the past like 2-3 years of his career. Like he was pretty much outside, just get it, let it rip. Which actually, looking at this clip, it's pretty cool because when he broke the record after the game, Reggie Miller and Ray Allen were there. They're all like hugging each other and stuff. So it's pretty cool to kind of see that lineage of the record being passed on.
And what's unique? And something that's unique about Steph Curry is like he's not just a catch and shoot kind of guy. Like, and nothing wrong with those players and people who excel during that. But Steph Curry is the kind of guy that just pulls up from anywhere and makes it. I mean, imagine he's dribbling towards you. You're just getting past half court. He takes a few steps and he just pulls up and he makes it. And it's like, well, what the heck? You know what I mean? Like, what can
how
you really
do you guard that?
Yeah, like, you can only do so much just to stop something like that, and he's just always been able to do it. He's consistent at it. It's probably not something that you would coach your kid to do on a regular basis, but he's just mastered that shot from anywhere. So yeah,
that's the thing, amazing. Man. With him, that's definitely the type of guy where from a coaching standpoint, like he's earned that trust.
Yeah, to
Um,
do it. Yeah,
we had a guy that went D1 in basketball from my high school team, and he was really good. But honestly, it was one of those things as we played. Yo, Fallen, thank you for the raid. A party of 14. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. We have the sound alert stuff turned off for the podcast, but thank you so much, dear. Hope you had a fantastic stream. Um, but he could pull up from anywhere if he wanted to like just kind of take over. Like we kind of all played together for years. It was one of those things when it was like, okay, like Drew's feeling it, like we'd work
yeah,
around, get some movement going, and then we'd make sure we'd get him like where he wanted to be, but we just knew what he wanted. And it's like that's what's with Steph. Like when Steph wants to take over, his team knows what he wants to do, where he wants to be, and then
yeah.
make it happen, you know? And to that point, I think it works well for them. I love you all. Thank you all for popping in with the raid. Appreciate you. Um, I think that works well for them in Golden State because they know, like, okay, he's in command. This is how things want to operate. We're going to go through him. The issue that you're still kind of seeing with the Lakers is who's in command, who's
Yeah.
trying to run the operation, who are they playing through, you know? And I
And
feel like they
something
haven't
that
figured that out yet.
no, they haven't. And something that I thought that it was going to happen, which I've been hearing rumors about and it being discussed apparently by the team internally, is trading Russell Westbrook because whatever's going on with Russell Westbrook, and that team, it's not gelling, it's not working out, and it
No.
kind of seems like it seems like it's becoming a trend for him in his career because he's been bouncing around teams lately. He'll have his games where he pops off and he's getting a triple double or double double, but then he has games where he's just turning over the ball. He's making what seems to be like the same mistakes. I want to say, in a sense. With the basketball, and the Lakers have a lot to figure out, and it doesn't seem like they're the team at this point in the season that we thought that it would be, or they thought that we're going to be. Looking at it right now, the Lakers are at the 6th seed. They're 15-3, so they've almost just kind of canceled them record out with wins and losses. Let's see here, they're 10-7 at home, 5-6 on the road, so not the best record on the road. The last
Not really the best
10
record
games
at home either for the Lakers.
Yeah. The Clippers are actually playing better than them right now, and some would argue that the Lakers are supposed to be the super team, but no, I mean they're just, I don't know what it is, but like you said, they have to get it figured out because whatever they're trying to do has not been working for them.
Which, like, just for a second here, okay, I'm kind of biased towards LeBron. LeBron James is one of those athletes where people either like absolutely love him or they hate him, and I understand. Like from a fan perspective, I 100% understand why everybody feels the way they do. So with that being said, how about the fact that the dude is 36 years old? Okay, he's still averaging 26 points per game.
Yeah,
Averaging 6 rebounds per game, 7 assists per game. Like, what? And he's as big as he is. He's 6'9", 250. Like, that's insane. That somebody's still doing that, man.
Yeah, and I think it's also a testament to how he prepares, how well he takes care of himself, his diet, his training regimen is a big part of that and allows him to continue playing at the level he is, which is insane.
Yeah.
And another thing on the Lakers that I think that was really that I thought was like pretty hilarious. I felt it was disrespectful, but hilarious.
Are you talking about the goggles?
No.
Okay.
No, another player. So they were trying to compare Davis to Tim Duncan, or say that he's better because of this, and that. And I'm not even going to get into a whole rant about the accolades and how he's not even close. But when you're supposed to be this second superstar on the team, it doesn't really feel like Anthony Davis has been that guy this season either, which I think is also a disappointment because he is a true big. He has the ability to do a lot of great things, and he's played great games. But I don't understand. What's this dysfunctional? This is the dysfunctionality with the team where these players, they're just hurt, they're resting, they're just not performing how they should be. And I think Davis is one of the more disappointing players on the Lakers this year, aside from Russell Westbrook. being out
Well,
there.
and I'll say this too: adding Carmelo Anthony into the mix,
Hmm.
that doesn't help
No.
because let's say you break this down, okay? Like you got Russell Westbrook at the one, so he's the point guard. You can put LeBron anywhere on the floor you want. The guy can play any
Yeah.
position. Let's say he's the
Yeah.
two. Okay. You put Carmelo at what, the four? You put Anthony Davis at the five, and you got Trevor Ariza at the three, or you even switch LeBron and Trevor and put LeBron at the three, Trevor at the two. Like, how are Carmelo and Anthony Davis going to play with each other?
Yeah.
Because Davis likes to be outside. Carmelo Anthony has always been a perimeter guy outside. He's never really
Hmm.
been like a big inside. And
True.
it's just one of those things where it's like, and they got like the Lakers and stuff have so much size compared to other teams, but like none of that stuff it gels. You know what I mean? Like you have a
Yeah.
big and Anthony Davis, and you said that people were comparing him to Tim Duncan, which not, and this is no disrespect to Anthony Davis. He is a freaking amazing athlete. Tim Duncan
Yeah.
is the best power forward of all time. He
Yeah.
is the best power forward, period. You can argue and try to fight me on that till the day you die. The dude is the best powered forward to ever play that position. Nobody has
Yeah.
ever done it better. The guy has multiple titles and stuff with that. He has the ability to step outside, play inside, and he always is guarding the bigger, better players on the
Always.
post end defensively and locks them down. Like the dude did it the best.
Yeah.
And to try and like I said, it's nothing against Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis has great ball skills. He can shoot outside, but whoever's making that comparison, they obviously didn't watch much basketball. They're just trying to compare
Yeah.
like a big name
Clearly.
with a big name, you know?
Yeah. For
So
sure.
I don't know, man. It does seem like COVID is kind of spreading through the NBA though, as well, right
Oh
now.
yeah.
I saw
She,
Giannis might be entered into the protocol.
the Bulls had to postpone 2 games because a total of 10 players
Yeah.
came down under COVID protocols in one swoop. And for most of you there in the chat, if you don't know, like on a typical night of basketball, there's only like maybe 15, 18 guys out there. So when you have 10
Yeah, there's not
players that
many.
just go under like that, you almost pretty much, it's almost like if you don't qualify, you don't even qualify to play the game. You don't have enough personnel. Um, so it's just crazy how it's COVID is really sweeping into the NBA season, and hopefully, especially with everything going on with that, for everyone's sake, not just sports, that there's a better handle, or things get calmed down. I think things have maybe gotten a little bit better, but yeah, I mean it's causing problems, obviously in the sports world as far as who's available, and who can play, and the NBA is going to do their best to take care of the players and the fans and everyone. And if they have to postpone games, they will. But yeah, right now it seems like there's a lot of different players, more so than the NFL, that are having to get out because of COVID protocols.
Yeah. You think there's going to be any interesting trade moves coming up? You think like Ben Simmons is going to stay where he's at with the Sixers, or do you think Kyrie is going to stay where he's at with the Brooklyn Nets?
I honestly don't know that Kyrie is gonna end up staying with the Brooklyn Nets, because I mean he's required to take the vaccine to play there, or just in general because of the state's actual requirements. He hasn't budged on that. I mean, we're more than 20 games in, and I mean, from a financial standpoint, a team standpoint, you don't have any use for a guy that can't or won't play, and you're
Yeah.
paying him. So I don't think that he'll be in Brooklyn too much longer. I see him probably trying to go somewhere, not sure where, but somewhere where he can play without being vaccinated, because that's his choice. Um, Also, probably Russell Westbrook, like we were talking about, I don't see him maybe being on the Lakers longer. They're smart. They'll probably trade him for somebody, get somebody more productive. Um,
You
Ben
know,
Simmons could
with
probably go
that,
somewhere else.
I would actually, and that's kind of crazy.
Hmm.
It wouldn't happen because of like the fallout between KD and Westbrook.
Yeah.
But could you imagine if Kyrie and LeBron reunited with Davis and Westbrook reunited with Harden and KD back when like they all were on the Thunder?
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Like
That would be pretty insane.
that would be pretty wild. But and here's my thing with basketball, man. Okay, to bring that up, I I played basketball. I could have went to college for basketball. I love basketball. Football was my passion. Okay,
Yeah,
that's just where my
I
heart
feel that.
was.
Yep.
But dude, when it comes to basketball, and I don't know if maybe it's a sport or like what it is, and maybe people in chat can relate to this. When I played football, there was like no egos. Like we all had the same common goal. We all were out there doing the same thing. Like we had guys that were obviously better than others, and like we had guys that we'd look to like make plays or whatever. But when it came to basketball, man, I don't know what it is, but it's just like there's just like this, and I don't know if maybe it was like started with like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird,
Yeah.
where those two went at it back in the day, and everybody saw like, holy crap, like who is the best player? Is it Magic? Is it Bird? And then that transitioned into Magic and Michael, and then it transitioned into like Michael, Shaq, whatever, like I don't know if it's
Yep.
like that kind of like created this stigma, but it's like if you look at basketball, there's all these guys that have these egos that have to be the best player or the guy on the team.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
reason why I think the Bucks did what they did last year and what I think they'll continue to do, and the same thing with the Golden State Warriors, is you don't have a bunch of egos on those teams. Like you got
Yeah.
Giannis on the Bucks, you got great utility players around him. They know who they're playing through. It works. You got Steph Curry, Clay Thompson when he comes back. I don't know if he's back yet or not, but him and Clay, no egos, man. Like those guys
No.
gel
Yeah.
well together. They vibe well together. The only person that's
Absolutely.
got an ego on that team is Draymond Green, but that's their enforcer. That's their
Yeah.
Dennis Rodman back in the day, where he's gonna like get in the other team's head and kind of create issues. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. If you kind of look back at like a lot of these super teams, it just don't work. Like they haven't really worked. I don't
Yeah.
know of a super team. The only super team I know of that like I can think of real quick that came together and
Hmm.
formed a super team and won the title was the Boston Celtics with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen.
Yeah. They beat the Lakers. You know?
Then you had the Miami Heat. You had Dwayne Wade, LeBron, Chris Bosh, but that
Yeah.
team went through LeBron. Like that was their guy. And you
Yeah.
had pretty much Shaq, Kobe, um, Greg Pasquale, I think his name was, or whatever, George
Hmm.
Pasquale. Um, and then honestly, they weren't even really considered a super team, but I saw them as a super team. Was the San Antonio Spurs with Parker, Ginobili, and Duncan? Man,
Yeah, and I think also the difference sometimes comes is that when a super team is what they say, like what we like to say in San Antonio is that because now apparently according to the younger generation this is a or we were a super team. Well, one of the things that we're proud of that we like to state is that that super team was built, not bought. We didn't get some big
yes,
one
yeah,
star to come over here and play. We took these players in and they got developed into stars, and I think that part of that is why they meshed so well together, because they played so much together, they've struggled together, they've lost together, they've won together. And I think sometimes that builds a different dynamic for the team versus let me get the best player from that team, this team, and we're going to put them together. It does, and like I said, it doesn't always gel that way because of
yeah.
things like egos. You want to be the go-to guy. You know, the same reason why Michael Jordan really only played for one team, because for one, he's that definitely the one that the team is going to go through him. He's going to be the main guy on the basketball team. If you watch his documentary, you know that he's that exact kind of player that we're talking about. Like he's not going to be a number two anywhere else. If he would rather not probably play basketball for a team at
Let me
all
ask
than
you this
to
question.
be the number two guy.
So, like with what you just said,
Hmm.
Michael Jordan made it very well known in his documentary that either you did what he wanted or your ass was out. Like they
Yeah.
got rid of your ass because
Oh
it
yeah.
was it was his show. He was running the ship. Period.
Absolutely.
Think about that from Jordan and the guys in the league that were in the league during Jordan's time. Okay. Because if you think about it, a lot of those guys back then, you had Carl Malone, John Stockton, like like you even had Reggie Miller, you had Bird there for a little bit, John like Magic Johnson. Like none of those guys left those teams. They all stayed with their teams. Think
Yeah.
about Michael Jordan's mentality and his attitude, but
Yeah.
put him in today's game. I don't think Jordan would be that successful in today's game. I think he might still have like the stat lines and stuff that he did. If
Yeah.
he like the way he performed, like he'd still go out and do what he did. But if you look at Jordan's career before Pippen got there, Rodman got there, Grant got there, like all those pieces got around him, he was kind of like a Russell Westbrook. Like the dude was off the chain, dropping crazy amount of like statistical stuff like points, rebounds, assists, like just playing balls out all the time. But then at the end of the year, playoffs come, these teams beat him. And then he started
Yeah.
getting these guys in there with him that were all good players, but they knew, hey, this is about Mike. Like we're playing around Mike. He is our leader. They
Yeah.
bought into that. And you look at the Lakers with Magic Johnson, they bought into that. Same thing with
Yeah.
Larry Bird, all those guys. Like, but today, like getting back to what we're talking about, today's era, man, there's so many egos. And this, I don't know, man. I don't know that Michael Jordan could come into a team now
And start barking at the guys like he was doing back in the day.
back
Yeah,
in the
I
day.
get you for
Yeah.
sure. For sure. And then think about it, like even when they were on the dream team, like that whole time it's Michael
It was
Jordan's
Michael.
gonna be
Yep.
we're gonna be chomping at your ass. Like
Yep.
if you're doing something wrong or if you're if he thinks you're slacking, he's gonna bust you
I
up about it.
remember.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you ever watch that documentary about the Dream Team?
Yeah.
There's one thing that stood out to me in that whole documentary, or two things actually. One, nobody knew who the hell John Stockton was, and the guy's a legend. Okay, but nobody knew who the hell he was. I felt bad for
Yeah.
that man. But two, they were at practice, and him and Magic got into it, and they went at it like one on one, and Michael just took it to him. And after like practice was over, I remember Magic was like, "Yeah, me and Bird are sitting in the hotel room playing cards." And Magic's like, "We just look over and Michael's at the door." He said, well, "Boys, there's a new sheriff in town." And they didn't say anything. And when he left, they kind of just looked at each other like, "Yeah, there is. Like he's the guy. He's the one taking over." And it was
Yeah.
just like, that's it. Like we had our time. Our time has passed. The torch is now passed to this guy. And the thing that like the reason I said that really stood out to me is because those are two huge iconic figures in the
Oh yeah.
NBA. They have a ridiculous rap sheet when it comes to statistics in the NBA, Hall of Fame, everything they've done. And for them to recognize that, and they're like, yep, this is the guy that's like taking over. And so that's huge for one, the NBA, but two, like, just think of how like humble those guys are, you know? Like, man, I had my time, it was awesome, but like this is the man now, and like he's gonna succeed. Whereas compared to how it is today, you know?
Yeah, guys would probably be fighting and talking smack and
Yeah.
I want to trade or no. Now, I mean, you don't have to ask for a trade. You could say, you know what, I'm out.
I'm
I'm not
out, yeah.
playing here anymore.
Yep.
You can do that now in the NBA. So yeah,
Call me at home.
it's
You know?
100% different.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right, handsome, brute, got some posting to do, then got to get some beauty sleep. Have a great day slash evening slash night. Hey, I appreciate you following. Thank you so much for the raid. I do appreciate you coming through. I hope you have a good night's sleep. Thank you all for coming in, hanging out. Yeah, man, I don't know, man. Like, kind of looking at that, and the reason I bring all that up is because like I grew up in that era where I remember
Yeah.
Magic and Bird playing a little bit, and then Michael like taking over, and like I knew Michael, of course, and then it went from like Michael to Kobe, and then Kobe to LeBron. But like as I'm a little bit older and I've played sports for like pretty much majority of my life and coached and things. It's just like, dude, the game has changed so much, but like the attitude of the games have changed
Oh
tremendously.
yeah. I mean,
You know?
anybody that knows how basketball used to be in the '90s, it's oh boy. I mean, these guys were dinging each other up. They
Oh
were
yeah.
punches thrown, elbows thrown. You're getting pushed to the ground. You're getting knocked backwards, and there's no penalty. There's no call.
No.
It's just you gotta get you either get through it and get up and get out, or that's it. And man, like you're saying, to now it's just so different. Some people might even say in an argument that it's softer, and I will agree to it to a
Oh,
certain
I think
degree.
it is. Yeah.
It is a lot softer, but there's a reason for some of those
I agree with that too.
plateaus because guys back then used to just go out there and bust you in the nose just to do it, to get you out of the game
I remember
or
when
to send a message, you know?
okay, like Shaquille O'Neal is a huge individual. Dude's like
Yeah.
7'2", like 350. Okay. And I remember when he went up for a dunk and the guy wasn't gonna block it, and he just completely like clotheslined around Shaq's neck and just like
Yeah,
basically tackled him to the floor.
belligerently
And all it was just
fouling
like
someone.
whistle, common foul, and Shaq gets up and just boom, like bust him in the face, and they start going at it. And then it was like no technicals, like nobody was
Nope.
ejected, and I'm just like, dude, like first off, for you to have the balls to go do that to Shaq, like you clearly don't care about your life and your safety.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But it's just like now, man, like people get bumped the wrong way, or like there's an elbow that accidentally grazed a dude's head. Like, oh yeah, that's
A flagrant one or
a
something.
flagrant
Like,
one, flagrant two. Now, like you're
come
out,
on.
and it's just kind of like that's how it is in the game. And I
Yeah,
do agree with you. I do think the way the game is now, where it's more spread out. There's a lot more scoring. They want more like high impact plays of dunks and things like that. Like
yeah,
that's fine, but like you want to ensure people's safety and player safety. But
absolutely.
it's also a thing too where it's like, dude, like I don't know, man. It to me, I kind of said earlier, it's hard for me to follow the NBA because games don't get serious until around Christmas time because you have the
Yeah,
Christmas Day like specials, or it's like getting close to March, April because that's when teams are making their playoff push, and then when the playoffs start, that's when teams start playing. Like that's when it actually picks up and it's like super competitive to me.
yeah.
So
I think
that's
the
just how I
malice.
feel about.
I think the malice in the palace ruined all that. Ruined it all. They just made
Oh
after
yeah,
that crazy event. They're like, you know what? We can't ever have this happen
we can't
again.
have this happen.
Ever again.
That was wild, bro. I remember that. I
Yeah, I
remember
still
like
can't
watching
believe
that.
that. Years ago, I remember just seeing it on TV. Like, what?
Like, what is happening right now?
Yeah,
Now, every now and then you'll see a player like throw the ball in the stands, and everybody's like, "That's so crazy!" It's like, bro, these people used to like actually have flat out brawls on the bench, you know?
yeah.
Like,
Because someone threw beer or popcorn, and then someone walked over and threw a punch.
yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild.
I just, I don't know, man. I do think this NBA season is going to be pretty interesting though to follow because you just have there's a lot of potential, man, for super teams to like just take over control and
Yeah,
dominate, or it's like, wow, you're just going to see a whole new drama episode that's, televised as the Nets or the Lakers this year.
yeah,
It just doesn't, it's either going to go well or it's just going to burn. But I don't, for the Lakers standpoint, I don't think if they can pick it up, like if they get through December and they start playing better and it gets to January, and things haven't really improved, you're going to see people traded. LeBron's going to get those people out of there.
yeah. Definitely.
So
LeBron's like a more subtle and I guess you could say yeah, more subtle when it comes to things like that. Like, hey, we're getting rid of so and so.
yeah, like they got to go.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you want to touch on, man, before we wrap it up?
No, I think it's pretty much covered it. We got to cover some good stuff on fantasy and just as a friendly reminder, playing fantasy, anything like that. I mean, just keep checking your roster like to the last 10 minutes of games, because
Yeah.
with this whole COVID protocol stuff, guys get taken out of the lineup like that because of whatever crap comes up that they have COVID or tested positive or something. So just a reminder, just keep an eye on that to the last minute, because last minute changes have been made to game rosters
That really
regularly.
screwed me last week. That sucked.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have like won, but just the fact that like
Yeah.
there was another person out like 30 minutes before the game started. I'm like, bro, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna
I
check
might as
this.
well.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's gonna wrap it up this week, folks. There is some college football bowl games going on. If you want to check them out. We're not to the big ones yet though. Those will be like New Year's Day and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So we appreciate y'all stopping by. Tetsuya, thank you again for the biddies. Fallen Thorns, thank you again so much for the raid. We do appreciate y'all stopping in, hanging out with us. I am Selfless Gaming. You can find me on Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram as selfless_gaming. Then my Twitter is actually at turdslinger9000. Little Jacob, close us out, brother.
Yeah, everybody, Little Jacob. That's Little with 3 instead of an E. You can also find me on Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and also a Facebook page I have. If you use Facebook frequently, so feel free to reach out. Definitely try to reach out as soon as possible for fantasy information, and not like 5 minutes, 10 minutes before the game, because that might be a bit of a time crunch. But in general, anything sports related, gaming, just want to talk. Just a real quick thing. I wanted to try to be more of an advocate thing for like mental health awareness. So, and I know it's usually celebrated in October, but it's really something that we should have awareness of every month, every day of the week if possible. So if anyone ever needs a shout, talk to somebody, whatever, to reach out, ask for help, even if it's not myself. You're never alone. Just wanted to throw that out there. So I hope you guys are doing great though.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad you brought that up, man. Because there's some people I know that are like that were here in the chat, or they may not be here anymore. I am this type of person. I know Little Jacob's this type of person as well. Like, we take value in the people that are in our communities, come and show us support and everything. And there's been some people, I don't want to say like names or anything, but I used to see you around, not in my chat, but like you would come in my chat, whatever. I would see you in other people's chats. Haven't seen people around. I'm going to reach out to you. I'm just going to say, hey, you doing all right? Like, I think that's awesome that when people do that, just to check on somebody. I actually found like one person was going through a very serious situation, and they did not expect like me of all people to reach out and stuff. But like, just take notice of that in people. Like, you definitely see them change. You definitely kind of can get the feel of something's going on with somebody, and just reach out, like just make sure they're doing okay. You never know how that could affect somebody and like turn their day around.
For sure.
Everything. So, but that's just kind of people we are. Like, we don't do it to be intrusive or anything like that. Like, we just care about you guys and everything. So,
absolutely.
But I'm gonna put on the be right back screen just for a couple seconds, and we'll figure out what we're gonna do next as far as the stream goes. But yeah, we appreciate y'all, love y'all, and good luck this year in your playoffs if you are in a fantasy football league. So you're out, baby. 18-0, Dallas. 18-0. See y'all.